guys, and welcome back finally to another Bless Unleashed. Today, we are going to be going over how each class feels in the mid to late game stage. And this could very well be one of the last videos that I post for Bless Unleashed for a while. I know the videos have been a little slow as is, but there's not much content that I can cover currently. But before getting into how each class feels, I want to go and say this outright, because on the last video where we kind of went over all of the classes, people were saying that, oh, I haven't played the class enough, how do I know this, how do I know that? And so I want to kind of state all that right now. At this time, by the time you get to the point where most of my classes are, my ranger has a lot more time on her than the rest of the classes. But at the time that you get to that point that they are, I am past Gideon for each and every single class, which means I have put at least, if you followed my guides, which I'm sure, you know, a lot of people have seen by now. If you followed my guides, you'll know that it's taken roughly about 50 hours per character to get to this point, which means I have over probably 250 hours on each character. Well, not on each character, but between all the characters. And then since I've spent more time on my ranger, I obviously have more, so I'm probably right around 320 hours into the game. I've obviously taken a massive step back from the game due to RNG and enhancement system. However, that does not mean I don't like the game. But for the class review, ranger, first and foremost, really good class. Still my #1 class, still the top class that I suggest for people, and absolutely does have the single target damage down. I'm on the Crescent Moon Blessing, and the absolute damage that I can do, that not just one target but sometimes multiple targets depending on which ability I'm using or which combo I'm using, is just insane. I was doing Archon of Fire at one point with my ranger, trying to get the Nightwind fragment, which I still have yet to do, and I did this exact combo that I am about to do right here. Drop that the Arrow Storm, and then I charged up, did the whatever that is, Thunder Arrow, the Erupting Arrow, and then the Evasive Arrow, whatever. I stuck with the names of each of the ones, but obviously I missed half of the abilities right there. But I did that, and I did roughly about 70 to 75,000 damage on the Cyclops solo. Just based off of that, and that's not including if you do her regular combo for evasive arrow, retreating, and then penetrating shot. You do roughly anywhere from 11 to 12,000 damage on the penetrating arrow, the final attack of it. So overall, ranger, very good. Still though, very weak in the AoE department. You have your right trigger combo, which allows you to hit multiple targets, but there's no stun or stagger capabilities. You do have a couple of abilities that, if hit right, you can hit multiple targets, but still, you know, of the AoE capabilities, a very low AoE character. But I mean, what I say she because mine's a female, but what the ranger lacks in AoE, they definitely make up for in just pure outright damage. So next up is the mage. See you there. Alright, so we're on the mage. Something that I forgot to mention on the ranger, I had the crescent moon completely maxed out and unlocked, whereas for most of the other characters, I only either have the new ability or focused on putting some points into some other abilities. But the mage, I still believe remains the AoE king or queen, the top AoE. Just because if you do this right, usually there's a grouping of enemies, or someone's like grouping enemies together. But let's say you come over here and you just drop a meteor. You do a ridiculous amount of damage, and obviously my mage is nowhere near as strong as probably should be, but still, one way or another, the mage is still very AoE heavy. One of the biggest things that I still absolutely love about the mage is not only is your fireball a true damage, true hit, I guess, whatever you want to say. The damage isn't based off gear score, but so is the meteor. So the mage absolutely has two of the strongest abilities in the game. My mage is nowhere near to the point that most people's mages are. Gonna want. And so I mean, it probably looks very melodramatic. I've seen some mages both in PvP and in PvE who were dropping meteors for anywhere between 30 to 50,000 damage, and that's just one ability, meteor drop. And I believe they did their increased crit rate when they did drop the meteor. So as you can see, I did about 12k damage right there. So it's absolutely possible to do a mass amount of damage. And one of the things that I always see happen is when people are farming a lot of mobs, what they'll do is they'll get a whole bunch of mobs together, and then when they're in that nice tight clump, they'll drop a meteor on them. Another attack that I have found that I was using a lot more with the mage is the X attack, which I was very hypercritical of before, but it seems like it's I don't know, I've had a little bit more use of it later in the game. I still am a little bit critical of it. I feel like it should be a little bit longer of a range, but it's not as bad as I once said that it was in a previous video. And a nice thing about the mage is you're able to teleport around. If you upgrade this, whoopsie. Ooh, that's not what you want to do. If you upgrade, there we go. My trigger pulled for some reason. You can actually get a second teleport, and it's very useful for getting around. And it's also very useful for kiting. So I'll see a whole bunch of mages come, and even in the blood pool here, they'll run around, they'll pick up a whole bunch of enemies, and they'll get into the middle of them, then teleport out, and use that as a way to do a ton of damage all at once. You know, stuff like that. So still pretty high up there for usage wise and playstyle wise. Trying to get away from this bull. I don't feel like attacking it. I'm trying to keep the reviews short, sweet, and to the point, by the way, just so this video isn't ridiculously long. But playstyle wise and damage wise, I would say the mage is the second class that I would go with playstyle wise, just because it fits how I would play normally. But you know, make your own assumptions, make your own all that. And I get a question all the time: what does the left trigger do? Oh, Humo Goigoi fighting style. It actually regenerates your mana. So if you see people doing this, they're regenerating their mana, or they're just trying to walk around in a funny manner. One of the two. One of the biggest issues that I have with the mage though is I've noticed like if you get stunned, you're like kind of stuck in this position. I don't know if it's just the mage or if it's just this cosmetic on the mage, but you'll get stuck in that position and it just ends up being a little weird. So but yeah, next up is the Crusader. See you there. All right, so the Crusader, once again on Crescent Moon. Also only got Carve a Path, nothing else. But the Crusader is absolutely my go-to for a melee class. I get the question all the time, or I get people say all the time that the Crusader is like underwhelming. I actually really like the Crusader. The damage can be underwhelming sometimes, but like the fact that you have the leap that stuns, and then if you solar strike, like you do a lot of damage. And then on Crescent Moon, you also have the ability to buff your damage as well. And then, you know, all the... Really? No, why are you on that one? The lock-on system. Sometimes just questionable at best. But, I have my Crusader built a little bit more tanky. If you saw during the Gideon video, how to beat Gideon with the Crusader, you'll know that I have a bit more of a tanky build, but even then, like, I still do a pretty decent amount of damage, and I actually do a pretty decent amount of CC as well. You kite a whole bunch of mobs together, and then you jump on them and get the stun, and then the fact that like most of your basic attacks actually do a stagger as well, all makes for a very strong class overall. People are disappointed that it is not as tanky as they would like, but I kind of like that it's not a super tank, because if it was a super tank and it still did the moderate damage that it does, and I'm not saying that the Crusader does a ton of damage. Keep in mind, I am also at a 33% gear score disadvantage here because I haven't done anything on the Crusader since Gideon. But like the fact of the matter is, like, this class still feels very strong. It's not your average tank, and that's what a lot of people are upset about, is that it's not your average tank by any means, and it's also not the class that you would normally go to for DPS, but it's a very well-rounded class. One of the things that I'm very happy with is the shield, the blocking. If you notice, I'm blocking right now, and okay, you gotta actually hit me. Hit me! Stop trying to hit me and hit me! I took 13 damage. What should have done, what, 799 was that? Okay, hit me. How much does your attack normally do? 1,210 is what it normally does, and I only took 13 damage from it. Oh my god, the slide around bug. So the block does very well, and so as a class, as a general feel, all right, Hellbull, can you piss off? Thank you. As a general feel for the Crusader itself, you know, don't run in thinking you're gonna get a tank, but also at the same time, don't run in thinking you're gonna get a lot of damage. Just based on the fact that, like, it's a very well-rounded class. I've seen people build crit builds on the Crusader, and I've seen crits of well over 30,000 before. And I've seen people build a very tanky build, and they're able to sit there with shield up, tanking a whole bunch of damage. Now, granted, aggro does not exactly work in that manner where I can just sit there and they're always attacking me. And I get that, but like if you're in a solo, or if you got the aggro and you sit here and you need to tank a little bit so that your DPS can do the DPS before it aggro's on them, you can do the job. So overall, you know, my go-to for a melee class, absolutely, I love the CC, I love the mobility. I had a lot of people say that the CC and the mobility of the human Crusaders was different than the Ippen Crusaders. I have not tested this to be sure, but you know, take that with a grain of salt. Also, who doesn't love seeing a little dude run around with a sword and shield trying to take on giant things like that archfiend over there? Let's be fair, it's hilarious. But yeah, so nothing too crazy for the Crusader. If I were to just play casually and I got tired of my Ranger, I would probably go on my Crusader and play for a little bit, just because the Mage feels a lot like the Ranger and the way that it plays, and this is a different playstyle and my go-to playstyle. So yeah, next up is the Priest. See you there. Alright, now the Priest. I actually did the Priest a little bit more different than the other two. I actually got my healing sphere all the way up to Inner Light, and I didn't get Healing Nova. I opted to not get Healing Nova, and that's because like Healing Nova, it's useful, but I feel as if the Inner Light is a little bit more useful than the Healing Nova. And Priest, first and foremost, first thing that I gotta say is not my playstyle. However, if you remember in the original video, I was very hypercritical of the Priest, and I wasn't a huge fan of him. I am still not crazy on the Priest. I don't like how the animations kind of keep you stuck in place. It feels like that kind of opens you up to a lot of craziness. But I have a newfound respect for Priest. I still, you know, give a whole bunch of crap to, you know, my Priest friends and the Ippen friends and stuff like that. But overall, like, my opinion of the Priest has changed as we started getting closer to endgame. And I'm kind of letting myself take some hits here. But first and foremost, these healing bubbles, I was like, I don't know how I feel about the healing bubbles. But the healing bubbles actually have been crazy good with saving my life on multiple occasions. And just the utility of the Priest being a very strong healer. I wish there was a better healing ability. Like, I know in one of them, I think it's Nightwind, you get like a healing wave or something like that. Shield of Faith, Blades of Justice. No, Storm Chaser then? Yeah, Healing Wave. Heal yourself and your allies in front of you with a wave of holy energy. And I think that also gets Inner Life. No, Lingering Heal. Healing Wave grants additional healing over time. So pretty much the same thing as Inner Light. And I haven't tried that. I've seen it a couple times, but it looks like it's very hard to use. And that's the same thing with Healing Nova. Healing Nova takes up your entire bar at the bottom. The bar down there, the yellow bar, takes up the entire bar, and it is a bit of a long cast, so I'm not a big fan of using it. I don't really see it used in utility besides after the fact or after a fight. So that's why I opted to get Inner Light first. Another big thing that a lot of people were like, well, how do you build Priest? What kind of build? You want to go attack power and defense on a Priest, because your healing bubble, first you get your attack power from this, but your healing bubble is based off of your attack power. So the higher your attack power, the better your healing bubble is going to be, or your healing abilities in general. So you want your attack power up as high as you possibly can. So you saw that was about 2650 for the base. And then you come over here and no healing bubble. You got 2382 for a base. So I mean, it's not a lot, but it's a pretty significant change. And for the Crescent Moon, I like the Inner Light healing, absolutely, but I really wish I had the blades, the tear down, like let me hit in a area blades. The left trigger, I still don't see used too much. I've seen some people use it here and there, but I'm still a little disappointed with it, personally. However, it is good for like farming groups because it does hit Oh, my nose. It does hit a wide radius, like it'll chain off of others and stuff like that. So, um, overall, not my playstyle, but I have a severe respect for priests. During the original review, I'm pretty sure I said that I was very disappointed in them. That has changed. Obviously, I have a newfound respect and admiration for priests, especially very good priests. If you're very good with a priest, you have my respect because you've saved my ass more times than I would like to admit. So the last class on the list is my not so loved class, the Berserker. I'll see you there. Alright. So the Berserker. What I'm sure everybody has been waiting for. My opinions on mid to late game Berserker. And I will tell you, my opinions have not changed. I still feel as though the Berserker has potential, but does not meet said potential. And I know, there's all these people who are like, oh, hey, well, the Berserker can do, like, this much damage. I've never, ever personally seen a Berserker do a ridiculous amount of damage, like so many people state. I've never seen the DPS from a Berserker that caused me to go, ooh, look, Berserker, so strong. Granted, yes, once again, I am at a 33% disability or penalty because I have not yet done anything else on the Berserker because I haven't had the urge to. One of the things that a lot of people said whenever I got up to the Crescent Moon Blessing was that the Earth Shaker was going to really change my mind about the Berserker, and it hasn't. Even in the whole like rage state and everything else, I still don't see the ooh and ah about it. So you go to Berserk and you start doing your Earth Shaker, and yeah, you can do a little bit of damage, but I've never seen someone be able to sit here and go like this without taking hits. As you can see, I'm sitting here taking hits, and I lost half of my health to these two people, these two things, while trying to do Earth Shaker. So I don't know if I'm just using the Berserker wrong, or if the people who say, oh yeah, the Berserker can sit there and tank hits, are just trying to talk themselves up and make it seem like they're better than they are. But I do not see any Berserkers ever tanking hits, at least not on a regular, and never without at least taking a ton of potions with them or having a priest with them to be able to keep them healed. But the Berserker is just very underwhelming. They need to speed up the animations on the Berserker and the animation lock. Like, I should not go like this and then I have to wait so long just to be able to move again. And I should not have less of a wait from my heavy attacks to be able to move again. And that's the same thing with if I do an ability. I have to wait a ridiculous amount of time, and I'm stuck in this animation lock, and I'm taking unnecessary hits. You know, whether you're in rage or you're just playing, it's unnecessary. All around, it's unnecessary. And I don't know, the animation needs to be sped up a little bit, and they need to rebalance both early, mid, and late game. The CC is not there because you are so slow and you don't stagger enough with your already slow attacks. And it's just very underwhelming. I even went and killed stuff that was like under level, under gear score, should have been super simple, super easy, and I still wasn't seeing the results that people have been talking about. I've had people tell me that they've beaten Gideon in 5 minutes with a Berserker, and I don't. That's impossible in the first place, and second, the Berserker doesn't have the defense or the strength to be able to do the damage. And I've been hypercritical of the Berserker from the start, and my hypercriticism remains. Everything that I've said at the beginning, from the very start of using the Berserker, all the way up through to now, 50 hours into the game, or into the class later. Actually, probably more. If you notice, all of my other characters, minus the Ranger, so the Crusader, the Mage, and the Priest were all level 24. The Berserker is level 25, and I'm actually pretty sure... Okay, no, same amount of skill points used, and I actually know, because I got Furious Earthbreaker plus 2 on the leap attack, so I have 6 skill points used on the Berserker. So I mean, you can see, to be able to beat Gideon and to be able to contest with other classes, the Berserker needs so much more, and it's just very underwhelming. The class is underwhelming. I've had so many people say they started out with the Berserker, they thought they loved it, and then they switched over and they played something else and they realized how underwhelming the Berserker was. And that's not to say that I haven't heard other people say the Berserkers were the best class in the world, and I've seen very good Berserkers before. But from a scaling perspective, if you put all of the classes on the same playing field with the same exact everything, the Berserker is much lower than every other class in the game, and I'm very, very disappointed with it. I feel like there's a lot of potential. I feel like the Berserker class could be among the best, if not the best, with just a couple of small tweaks. But as far as the class goes, at current state, as of 6/7/2020, so June 7th, 2020, for those of you who want to know the date of this video, of the updates and everything else, as of today, from me recording this, the Berserker is an underwhelming, underpowered, and very, very sad class in comparison. If you put all the other classes at the exact same point, exact same gear score, exact same damage penalties, or anything like that, the Berserker does not perform the same caliber as the rest. And I know I can already see the comments. If you have a comment stating how great the Berserker is, and I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm a Ranger main and this and that, and I haven't played the Berserker enough to know. I've played the Berserker enough to know, and I've seen Berserkers enough to know. If you're gonna tell me that, oh, the Berserker is so great and you always want a Berserker in dungeons, I have done the hardest dungeons better without a Berserker than with a Berserker. With an over-leveled Berserker at that. I've run Archon of Fire hundreds and hundreds of times trying to get the Nightwind Fragment with my Ranger, and I've had level 35, 36 Berserkers come in, and I perform better than those 35 to 36s with my level 32 Ranger. And on top of that, when I ran with a 4-man one time, and the only class that was changed around ended up being a Berserker, we ended up having the Berserker, or the Cyclops go Berserk with the Berserker than when we had a Priest the one time. So one character changed, one person changed, and how things were done were changed one time. And there was a big enough changed that a level 32 Berserker was outperformed by a level 30 priest. So, potential. Yes, it's there. There's a ton of potential. Absolutely. Is the potential met with the Berserker? Absolutely not. 110% no. So, that's gonna do it for this class review of all the classes. This is probably one of my last Bless Unleashed videos for a little bit, as there's not much else to cover. I can cover the dungeons and stuff like that, but you all have seen them before. Other people have covered them. I don't have the patience to get my gear score up to cover most of these dungeons. As a lot of you know, I personally am unhappy with the game because of the enhancement and the RNG system. I'm hoping that the update in July, July, helps to fix my displeasure with the game. So we might see more content start popping in July. Who knows? But for now, this is pretty much it. I mean, you guys saw the Crescent Moon Blessings. You guys saw my take on the characters mid/late game. To some people this is late game, to some people this is mid game. That's why I say mid/late game. And so yeah, that's about it. So thank you guys for all your continued support. I still am uploading videos every single day outside of the Bless Unleashed stuff. And if you like some of my Bless Unleashed stuff, there's a very good chance you will probably like some of my other stuff as well. I upload things like Dead by Daylight, both funny and helpful. I do Let's Plays. I just finished Half-Life Alyx. The new VR game was absolutely phenomenal. I did Doom Eternal. I do a whole bunch of stuff. I do IRLs. I have a video coming out here soon of exploring Silent Hill in real life, the town that inspired everything Silent Hill, Centralia. That's coming soon, so you definitely want to subscribe and hit that like button and ring the bell and all that, because I have a ton of cool stuff that comes out every single day. I've been doing some retro things like Parasite Eve, which is the original, not the original, but one of the original horror games that ever came out. So thank you all so much for your support, your love, your everything. Just thank you for being you, and thank you for being an amazing community. And I will see all of you guys next time. Bye guys.